The great crystal hall of Nexus Prime sparkled with 1,000 colors as delegates from across the galaxy gathered for the monthly council meeting. The massive dome stretched high above them, its walls made of living crystal that sang softly in the wind. 12 different species sat around the circular table, each representing billions of lives scattered across the stars. Ambassador Kelvari of the Zenthari people stood up slowly. His blue skin gleamed under the crystal light, and his forearms moved gracefully as he spoke. The Zenthari were known for their love of stories and old tales, but today, Kelvari looked serious. "Fellow council members," Kelvari began, his voice echoing in the hall, "I want to talk about something that has troubled me for many cycles. We have found something strange in our old records." The other delegates shifted in their seats. The Dracony representative, a large reptilian being, snorted softly. "More old stories, Kelvari? We have real problems to solve." But Kelvari continued, "These are not just stories. We have found the same tales on 12 different worlds told by 7 different species. All of them speak of the same thing, a people called humans." Jin sat quietly in the corner taking notes on his datapad. As a young Zenthari historian, he had spent years studying these old tales. His green eyes were bright with excitement as his mentor spoke. Next to him, Na, Kelvari's aide, watched the other delegates carefully. She had been the one to find the strange patterns in the old records. "According to these tales," Kelvari went on, "humans were a species unlike any other. The stories say they could live anywhere, in the hottest deserts, the coldest ice worlds, even in the vacuum of space with the right equipment. They built ships that could travel faster than light without using the quantum drives we all know." The Aquari delegate, her blue gills fluttering with amusement, laughed softly. "Come now, Kelvari. You speak of myths and legends. Every species has stories of magical beings from the past. But these stories are different," Jin spoke up, his voice young but firm. "I have studied them all. The humans in these tales were not gods or magical beings. They were described as flesh and blood, just like us. But they had something we don't understand. They could adapt to anything." Na nodded and activated her holographic display. Images of ancient star charts appeared in the air above the table. The stories all agree on certain facts. Humans came from a small blue world in the outer rim. They spread across many systems very quickly. Then, about 3,000 years ago, they simply vanished. "Vanished?" The Makani delegate's electronic voice buzzed with interest. "All of them?" "Every trace," Na confirmed. "No bodies, no destroyed ships, no final battles. The stories say they just left. They went beyond the edge of our galaxy and never returned." The council president, an elderly Nexari with silver skin and wise eyes, leaned forward. "Even if these humans existed, why should we care?" "They are gone, if they ever lived at all." Kelvari looked around the table at each delegate. "Because the stories say they will return. Every single tale ends the same way. Humans will come back when the galaxy faces its darkest hour." The Dracony delegate slammed a clawed hand on the table. "Enough. We waste time on children's stories while real threats grow in the outer systems. The Void Pirates attack our trade routes, and you want us to discuss fairy tales." Many delegates murmured agreement. Jin felt his heart sink as he watched their dismissive faces. He had spent so long researching, finding connections, proving that the human stories were more than just myths. But they wouldn't listen. The descriptions of their technology, Jin tried one more time. Ships that could bend space without quantum drives. Weapons that could cut through any shield. Materials that could repair themselves. None of our science can explain how these things could work. Because they didn't work. The Aquari delegate said firmly. "They are impossible. Old stories always make the past seem more magical than it really was." Na stood up, her datapad showing new information. "What if I told you that we found something else?" Deep space monitoring stations have been picking up strange signals from beyond the galactic rim. Signals that match patterns described in the human myths. The hall fell silent. Even the crystal walls seemed to stop their soft singing. "What kind of signals?" the president asked slowly. "Energy signatures unlike anything in our databases," Na explained. "They appear for a few seconds, then vanish. Always from the same direction, the path the humans supposedly took when they left." The Makani delegates' lights flashed rapidly. "Could be natural phenomena. Space is full of things we don't understand." "Could be," Na agreed. "But these signals have been getting stronger over the past few months. And yesterday our long-range sensors detected something moving in the void between galaxies." The council members looked at each other with growing unease. The void between galaxies was empty space. No stars, no planets, no life. Nothing could survive out there for long. Jin felt his pulse quicken. What if the stories are true? What if humans really did leave the galaxy? What if they've been living out there all this time and now they're coming back? Impossible, the Draconi delegate growled. No species could survive in the void. There's nothing out there but darkness and cold. But even as he spoke, alarms began to sound throughout the Crystal Hall. The president's communication panel lit up with urgent messages from across the galaxy. Na's datapad buzzed with incoming reports. President? The voice of the orbital defense commander crackled through the speakers. We have multiple massive energy signatures approaching the system. Unknown configuration. They're huge, sir. The president stood up, his silver skin pale with worry. How long until they reach us? At their current speed, approximately 6 hours, sir. These readings don't match anything in our files. The energy output is beyond our understanding. The council chamber fell into stunned silence. Outside the crystal dome, the stars seemed to twinkle more brightly, as if something was coming from the darkness between them. Jin looked at his mentor, then at Na. The young historian's hands trembled as he realized that all their research, all their studying of ancient myths, might have been preparing them for this moment. The stories spoke of humans returning in the galaxy's darkest hour. As if summoned by their discussion, something was coming home. The energy signatures grew stronger with each passing hour. Across Nexus Prime, millions of beings looked up at the sky, waiting to see what would emerge from the darkness between stars. The Galactic Council had moved to the orbital defense station, where massive screens showed the approaching fleet. 27 vessels confirmed, reported the sensor operator, her voice tight with worry. Largest ship is by the void. It's 8 kilometers long. We've never seen anything like these designs. President Delari stared at the tactical display. The approaching ships didn't look like anything in the galactic database. They were dark and sleek, with curves that seemed almost alive. Their hulls appeared to absorb scanner beams instead of reflecting them, making them hard to track. Try to hail them again, the president ordered. The communications officer had been sending standard greeting messages for the past 3 hours. Still no response, sir. They're maintaining course directly for our system. Jin stood near the back of the command center, his heart racing. Na was beside him, both of them forgotten in the chaos as military officers and diplomats rushed around them. The young historian couldn't stop thinking about the old stories. Every detail seemed to match what they were seeing. Sir, the communications officer suddenly straightened. I'm receiving a transmission. It's in perfect galactic standard. Put it through, President Delari commanded. The speakers crackled, and then a clear voice filled the command center. The accent was strange, unlike any species they knew, but the words were perfectly pronounced. Galactic Council of Nexus Prime, this is the human expeditionary fleet. We are humanity. We have returned. Absolute silence fell over the command center. Every being present felt their blood turn cold. The myths were real. The legends were true. Humans existed and they were here. President Delari found his voice first. This is President Delari of the Galactic Council. We welcome you. Are you truly the humans from the old stories? A different voice answered this time, deeper and more formal. We are the children of Earth, the species that left this galaxy 3 millennia ago. I am Admiral Hyun of the Human Colonial Fleet. We request permission to approach for peaceful contact. Permission granted, the President replied, though his hands shook as he spoke. Within the human fleet, Captain Tay stood on the bridge of the massive ship called Indomitable Spirit. The bridge was unlike anything the aliens could imagine. Curved walls that seemed to flow like water, control panels that responded to thought as much as touch, and a viewing screen that showed space in perfect detail. What are you reading from their defenses? Captain Tay asked his science officer. Yu's fingers danced over controls that glowed softly at his touch. Standard quantum-based shields, plasma weapons, basic fusion drives. Their technology appears to be about where we expected, Captain. 3,000 years behind our current level. Good. Keep passive scans only. We don't want to alarm them more than we already have. Chief Science Officer Yu nodded. He had been studying the alien transmissions and broadcasts during their approach. Their language patterns suggest 12 major species in their council. The Zenthari appear to be their historians. They're the ones who maintained our stories. On the view screen, the blue and green world of Nexus Prime grew larger. Captain Tay had read about this world in the old databases. It had been a minor trading post when humans left the galaxy. Now it was the seat of galactic government. Hyun to Tay. Admiral Hyun's voice came through the ship's communication system. The aliens are requesting that a single ship approach their orbital station for initial contact. I'm assigning that honor to you. Understood, Admiral. We won't let humanity down. In the alien command center, tension filled the air as they watched one of the human ships separate from the fleet. It was smaller than their flagship, but still larger than most Council vessels. As it approached, their sensors revealed details that made no sense. The hull material is unknown, the chief engineer reported. It's not metal, not ceramic, not any composite we recognize. And, sir, our sensors are having trouble penetrating it. It's like the ship is absorbing our scans. What about their weapons? Asked General Crick, the Council's military commander. That's the strange part. We can't detect any obvious weapon systems. No gun ports, no missile tubes, no energy weapon arrays. Jin stepped forward. Maybe they don't need obvious weapons. The stories always said human technology was different from ours. The general looked at the young historian with annoyance. Stories won't help us if they decide to attack. Sir, the communications officer interrupted. The human ship is requesting docking permission. They want to send a diplomatic team aboard our station. President Delari took a deep breath. Grant permission. But keep our shields up and weapons ready. An hour later, the human shuttle had docked with the station. Security teams waited nervously in the docking bay as the airlock cycled. Everyone held their breath as the outer door opened. The first human to step through the airlock was Captain Tay. He was tall and lean, with dark hair and alert eyes. His uniform was simple but elegant, made of a material that seemed to shift color in the light. Behind him came two other humans, Yu and a diplomatic officer named Kai. The aliens stared in amazement. Humans looked remarkably similar to several species they knew, but there was something different about them. They moved with confident grace and their eyes seemed to take in everything at once. President Delari, Captain Tay said, stepping forward with a slight bow. I am Captain Tay of the Indomitable Spirit. On behalf of humanity, I thank you for allowing us to return home. Home? President Delari asked. But you left the galaxy thousands of years ago. We left, but we never forgot, Yu said, speaking for the first time. This galaxy gave birth to our species. It will always be home no matter how far we travel. And I've found the courage to step forward. The stories say humans left to avoid a great war. Is that true? Captain Tay's expression grew serious. We left because we had become too powerful too quickly. Our technology was advancing faster than our wisdom. We feared we would dominate other species without meaning to, so we chose exile instead of empire. And now you've returned, General Crick said suspiciously. Why now? Because the galaxy faces a threat that requires all of us working together, Captain Tay replied. But first you need to know that we speak the truth. You need proof that we are who we claim to be. What kind of proof? The president asked. Yu smiled slightly. The old stories mention human capabilities that seemed impossible to you. Would you like a demonstration? The command center fell silent again. The moment of truth had arrived. After 3,000 years of myths and legends, humanity was offering to prove they were real. President Delari looked around at his advisors, then back at the humans. What did you have in mind? A simple test, Captain Tay said. Your military can choose 3 of their best ships. We'll send one of our smaller vessels to engage them in a non-lethal combat exercise. You'll see for yourself what human technology can do. General Crick's eyes widened. 1 ship against 3 of ours? If that seems unfair, Yu added with a slight smile. You can send more. The general's face flushed with anger at what he saw as arrogance. Very well. We accept your challenge. Prepare to see what 3,000 years of galactic military development has achieved. But Jin felt a chill run down his spine. The humans seemed too confident, too calm. What exactly had they learned during their time in the void between galaxies? The space around Nexus Prime buzzed with activity as 3 of the Council's most advanced warships moved into position. The battlecruiser Thunder's Edge led the formation, flanked by the destroyers Swift Justice and Iron Will. These ships represented the best military technology the galaxy had produced in 3,000 years. General Crick stood on the bridge of Thunder's Edge, his scales gleaming under the harsh light of the command center. As a veteran Draconi warrior, he had fought in dozens of battles. His ship carried the most powerful plasma cannons in the fleet and shields that could withstand direct hits from asteroids. "All ships report ready," his tactical officer announced. "Good," General Crick growled. "These humans think they can intimidate us with their mysterious technology. Let's show them what real military experience looks like." Far above the planet, the human frigate Ghostwalker separated from the main fleet. It was the smallest ship in the human formation, barely half the size of Thunder's Edge. Its dark hull seemed to drink in the light from nearby stars, making it difficult to see even with enhanced sensors. Lieutenant Min sat in the pilot's seat, her hands resting lightly on controls that responded to the slightest touch. Unlike the complex bridge of the alien warships, Ghostwalker's command center was surprisingly simple. Smooth surfaces curved around 3 crew members with displays that seemed to float in the air. "So how do you want to handle this?" asked Tactical Officer, so his voice calm despite the situation. "Keep it simple," Min replied. "We're here to demonstrate, not humiliate. Disable their weapons and engines, but don't hurt anyone." "Understood. Their weapons are primitive, but they have decent range. Shall we close to effective distance?" Min smiled. "What's effective distance for us?" "About anywhere in the same star system." Back on Nexus Prime, thousands of beings watched the engagement on public screens. The Council Command Center was packed with observers, including Jin and Na, who watched with growing excitement. This was history being made. "Both sides are in position," the sensor operator reported. "Human vessel is maintaining distance of 50,000 kilometers. Our ships are closing to optimal firing range." President Delari leaned forward in his chair. "Are all weapons set to practice settings?" "Confirmed, sir. No lethal force will be used by either side." General Crick's voice crackled through the speakers. "Human vessel, this is Thunder's Edge. We are ready to begin the exercise." Min's response came back immediately. "Ghostwalker ready. You may begin when you wish." "All ships attack Formation 7, General Crick ordered. Show them how the Council fights." The 3 alien ships moved with practiced precision. Thunder's Edge charged straight ahead while the 2 destroyers split left and right, trying to surround the human frigate. Plasma bolts lit up space as they opened fire from maximum range. Every shot missed. Ghostwalker seemed to dance between the incoming fire, moving in ways that defied understanding. The ship didn't just dodge. It appeared to anticipate where each shot would be fired and was already moving before the aliens pulled their triggers. "Impossible," breathed the sensor operator. "Their ship is accelerating at rates that should crush any crew inside." "Maybe they have better inertial dampeners than us," suggested an aide. But Jin was studying the tactical display more carefully. "Look at the movement pattern. It's not random. The ship is actually moving through dimensions of space that we can't even detect." On Ghostwalker's bridge, Min watched the alien ships with professional interest. "Their tactics are good. Classic pincer movement. If we were using their technology, this might actually be challenging." "Should I return fire?" So asked. "Not yet. Let them get a little closer. I want to make sure everyone can see this clearly." The alien ships pressed their attack, firing volleys of plasma that lit up the darkness. But Ghostwalker continued its impossible dance, never staying in one place long enough to be hit. The human ship seemed to flow like water through space. "Their engines," Admiral Wu said from the observation deck. "How are they moving like that?" "Our best engines couldn't produce half that acceleration." Yu, the human science officer, overheard the comment. "We learned some interesting things about physics during our time away. Space isn't as solid as you think it is." "What does that mean?" Na asked. "It means," Yu replied with a slight smile, "that if you understand space-time correctly, you don't need to fight against it. You can work with it instead." General Crick was getting frustrated. "All ships, Titan formation. Concentrate fire on predicted movement paths." The alien ships adjusted their tactics, trying to create a web of plasma fire that the human ship couldn't avoid. For a moment, it seemed like they might succeed. Then Ghostwalker simply wasn't there anymore. "Where did it go?" General Crick demanded. "Sir, it's behind us," his sensor operator replied in a shaky voice. The human frigate had somehow moved instantly from in front of the alien formation to behind it. Not fast movement, instant relocation, as if it had stepped sideways through reality itself. "Now," Min said quietly, Ghostwalker's weapons finally activated. But they weren't like anything the aliens had ever seen. No plasma bolts or energy beams shot out. Instead, space itself seemed to bend around the alien ships. Thunder's Edge shuddered as its shields simply stopped working. Not destroyed or overloaded, they just turned off as if someone had flipped a switch. A second later, the ship's weapons powered down. "What's happening?" General Crick shouted. "Damage report." "No damage, sir," his engineer replied in confusion. "All systems are intact, but our weapons and shields aren't responding to commands. It's like they've been disconnected." The same thing happened to the two destroyers. One moment they were fully operational warships. The next they were helpless metal shells drifting in space. Their engines still worked, their life support was fine, but every offensive and defensive system had been neutralized. "How?" Admiral Wu whispered. Yu answered from behind him. "We learned to talk to machines in their own language. Your computers simply think they're supposed to shut down those systems." "You hacked our ships during combat?" President Delari asked in amazement. "Not hacked," Yu corrected. "We convinced them." "There's a difference." Min's voice came through the speakers, calm and professional. "Exercise complete. All alien vessels are disabled but undamaged, restoring their systems now." One by one, the alien ships came back to life. Weapons powered up, shields reactivated, sensors came back online. It was as if nothing had happened except for the demonstration of complete technological superiority. General Crick's voice was quiet when he spoke again. "Ghostwalker, how many ships are in your main fleet?" "This was one frigate from a single task force," Min replied. "Admiral Hyun commands 300 vessels in this expedition alone." "And how many expeditions are there?" the general asked, though he seemed afraid of the answer. "Several hundred currently active," Min said simply, "with more launching every year." The command center fell into stunned silence. Jin felt his legs go weak as he realized the scale of what they were dealing with. Humanity hadn't just survived in the void between galaxies. They had built an empire that dwarfed anything in their home galaxy. "Why are you telling us this?" President Delari asked. "You could have conquered us easily." "Because conquest was never our goal." Captain Tay's voice came through the speakers from the docking bay. "We left to avoid becoming conquerors. We're not returning to rule you." "Then why are you here?" Na asked. The answer came from Admiral Hyun himself, his voice carrying across space from the fleet flagship. "Because something is coming that will destroy everything in this galaxy unless we work together. Your sensors should be detecting it within the next few days." "What kind of threat?" President Delari demanded. "The kind that eats galaxies," Admiral Hyun replied grimly, "and it's almost here." As if summoned by his words, alarms began to sound throughout the command center. The long-range sensors had detected something moving in the darkness beyond the galactic rim, something vast and hungry, heading straight for them. The demonstration was over. The real test was about to begin. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened within hours of the demonstration. The Great Crystal Hall was packed with delegates, military officers, and scientists. Everyone wanted to understand what they had witnessed and what the humans meant by a galaxy-eating threat. Ambassador Ho walked slowly to the center of the hall. Unlike the military officers they had met, Ho was clearly a diplomat. His gray hair spoke of wisdom and experience, and his dark eyes held depths that seemed to contain centuries of knowledge. He wore simple robes that seemed to shift color like the surface of a calm lake. "Members of the Galactic Council," Ho began, his voice carrying easily through the vast space. 3,000 years ago, my people made a choice that saved both us and you.
Today I will tell you the truth about why we left and why we have returned." President Delari leaned forward.
"We're listening." Ho activated a holographic display that filled the air above the central table. Images of ancient Earth appeared, a blue world covered in white clouds and green continents. This was our home. A small planet in what you now call the Outer Rim. When we first reached for the stars, we were not much different from you. We had plasma weapons, quantum drives, basic energy shields. We were one species among many. The images changed, showing early human settlements on other worlds. But humans have one trait that sets us apart from most species: we adapt. Not just to new environments, but to new ideas, new technologies, new ways of thinking. What takes other species centuries to accept, we learn in decades. Jin watched in fascination as the display showed human technology advancing at an incredible rate. Ships that had once looked primitive quickly evolved into sleek vessels that resembled the fleet now orbiting Nexus Prime. Within 500 years of leaving Earth, we had mastered technologies that other species thought impossible. We learned to manipulate space-time, to speak with quantum fields, to bend reality to our will. We became powerful very quickly. Too powerful, added Captain Tay, who had joined the session. Ho nodded sadly. Yes. We realized that our very presence was changing the balance of power in the galaxy. Other species began to fear us even though we meant no harm. We could travel faster than anyone else, build bigger ships, fight wars that others couldn't win. The holographic display showed images of tense diplomatic meetings, species fleeing from human systems, governments falling as the balance of power shifted. We faced a choice, Ho continued. We could have ruled the galaxy. Our technology was so advanced that no alliance of species could have stopped us. But ruling others was never what we wanted. We wanted to explore, to learn, to grow, not to dominate. So you left, Na said quietly. We left, Ho confirmed. But it wasn't exile. It was expansion. We had learned that this galaxy was only one of billions. Why fight over a single galaxy when infinite space waited beyond? The display changed again, showing the vast emptiness between galaxies. Then slowly, lights began to appear in the darkness. Thousands of lights, then millions. We didn't just survive in the void, Ho explained. We thrived. We built cities around dead stars, found life in places you would think impossible, discovered civilizations older than this galaxy. We learned things about the universe that would take your science millennia to understand. Admiral Wu stood up, his voice tight with worry. How many of you are there now? Ho paused before answering. In this galaxy, humanity numbered perhaps 1 billion when we left. Now across multiple galaxies and dimensions of space, we number in the trillions. This fleet represents less than 1% of our total presence in this region of space. The hall fell silent except for the soft singing of the crystal walls. The implications were staggering. Humanity had become a galactic superpower beyond anything the Council had imagined. But you said something is coming, President Delari said. Something that threatens the galaxy. Ho's expression grew dark. Yes. In our travels beyond this galaxy, we encountered something that changes everything. We call them the Devourers. New images appeared in the holographic display. At first, they looked like normal space phenomena, swirling clouds of gas and energy. But as the images focused, the delegates could see that the clouds were moving with purpose, consuming everything in their path. They are not alive as we understand life, Ho explained. They are entropy given form, darkness that feeds on light and matter and energy. They move from galaxy to galaxy, consuming everything they find, leaving only empty space behind. How big are they? Asked General Crick, though he seemed afraid of the answer. Each devourer entity is roughly the size of a solar system, Ho replied. They travel in swarms of hundreds or thousands. A single swarm can consume an entire galaxy in less than a century. The display showed images of dead galaxies, vast regions of space where no stars shone. No planets existed. Nothing remained but cold emptiness. We have been fighting them for over 1,000 years, Captain Tay added. We've learned how to slow them down, how to evacuate threatened systems, how to build defenses that can hold them off temporarily. But we cannot stop them permanently. What do you need from us? President Delari asked. Everything, Ho replied simply. Every ship, every weapon, every mind that can think of new solutions. The Devourers will reach this galaxy within the next 10 years. When they arrive, they will consume every star, every planet, every form of life unless we are ready for them. Commander Bin entered the hall at that moment, her military uniform marking her as one of the human fleet commanders. She carried a datapad filled with tactical information. The advanced scouts have already been detected by our sensors, Bin announced. Small entities that probe ahead of the main swarm. They're currently about 5 light years beyond the galactic rim, but they're accelerating. Jin felt his heart race.
How long do we have?
To prepare for the scouts? Perhaps 2 years, Bin replied. For the main swarm? 7 to 8 years, depending on how much they slow down to consume systems along the way. That's not much time, Admiral Wu said grimly. No, Ho agreed, which is why we need to begin immediately. We're prepared to share all our technology, all our knowledge, all our resources, but we need the same from you. What makes you think we can make a difference? Asked the Aquari delegate. If your advanced technology cannot stop them, what can our primitive weapons do? Ho smiled for the first time since entering the hall. Because sometimes the solution comes from unexpected places. You've had 3,000 years to develop in ways we didn't. Your minds work differently than ours. You might see solutions we've missed. Na stood up, her voice excited. Like the old stories say, from many minds one answer. Exactly, Ho nodded. Humanity alone cannot save this galaxy. But humanity working with the Xanthari, the Draconi, the Aquari, the Makani, and all the others. Together we might find a way. President Delari looked around the hall at the delegates from 12 different species. Each face showed fear, but also determination. The galaxy had faced threats before and survived. What's the first step? He asked. Commander Bin activated her data pad, and new holographic displays appeared around the hall. They showed star charts marked with defensive positions, resource requirements, and construction timelines. We start by building the largest fleet in galactic history, she said. Every shipyard, every factory, every resource extraction facility needs to be converted to military production. We're going to need ships by the thousands and weapons that can function on a scale none of us have ever imagined. And we start training, Captain Tay added. Human tactics combined with council innovation. We need to learn to fight as one force, not as separate species. Ho stepped forward again. The choice your ancestors faced 3,000 years ago, you face again today. But this time retreat is not an option. This time we stand together or fall together. The president stood slowly, his silver skin gleaming in the crystal light. Then we stand together. The Galactic Council accepts humanity's offer of alliance. Around the hall, delegates from 12 species rose to their feet. The applause was thunderous, echoing off the crystal walls like the sound of a million voices joined in common purpose. But even as they celebrated this historic moment, everyone knew the real work was just beginning. Somewhere in the darkness beyond the stars, the Devourers were coming, and the galaxy had less than 8 years to prepare for the fight of its existence. 6 months after the historic alliance was formed, the galaxy had transformed into the largest military construction zone in recorded history. Every major system buzzed with activity as shipyards worked around the clock, producing vessels that combined human technology with the best innovations from 12 different species. Commander Han stood on the bridge of the newest flagship, Unity's Dawn. The massive ship was a symbol of what different species could accomplish together. Its hull was built using Draconi metallurgy, its engines powered by Makani fusion cores, its shields generated by Xanthari crystal technology, and its weapons designed by human quantum physics. Most importantly, its crew represented every member species of the Council. Status report. Han requested as he walked between workstations operated by beings from across the galaxy. All primary systems online, reported Chief Engineer Hai, her fingers dancing across controls that responded to both touch and thought. The hybrid systems are performing even better than our simulations predicted. Hai had spent the past months working with engineers from every species, learning to merge technologies that had never been combined before. The results were remarkable. Ships that could fight like humans, think like Makani, and heal like Xanthari crystals. Fleet status? Han asked next. 237 vessels completed and operational, replied Communications Officer Yoon, one of the younger council members who had volunteered for military service. Another 400 in various stages of construction. We're ahead of schedule. Through the view screen, Han could see the magnificent sight of the combined fleet. Human vessels with their flowing organic designs flew alongside angular Draconi battleships and crystalline Xanthari cruisers. Makani ships that looked more like flying cities shared formation with sleek Aquari submarines adapted for space combat. But the most impressive sight was the crews themselves. On every ship, beings from different worlds worked side by side. Humans taught aliens about quantum manipulation while learning Draconi battle tactics and Xanthari strategic thinking. The exchange of knowledge had created innovations none of them could have achieved alone. Admiral Hyun is requesting a conference, Yoon announced. The main screen activated, showing Admiral Hyun on the bridge of the human flagship. Behind him, Jin could be seen working at a research station, his young face intense with concentration. Commander Han, Admiral Hyun said formally, our deep space sensors have detected the first Devourer scouts entering the Outer Rim systems. They'll reach the inhabited worlds within 18 months. Are we ready? Han asked, though he already knew the answer. As ready as we can be for a preliminary engagement, Hyun replied. But Jin has made a discovery that changes everything. The young Xanthari historian stepped forward, his green eyes bright with excitement despite the grim situation. Commander. We've been analyzing the Devourer entities with our combined sensor arrays. What we found contradicts everything we thought we knew about them. Explain, Han said. They're not just mindless forces of destruction, Jin continued. There's a pattern to how they consume matter and energy. They're actually trying to communicate. But their method of communication involves consuming entire star systems. Chief Engineer Hai looked up from her station. Are you saying they're intelligent? More than intelligent, Jin replied. They're ancient. Our analysis suggests they've been traveling between galaxies for millions of years. But here's the important part. They're not originally from our universe. Admiral Hyun took over the explanation. Jin's research, combined with human dimensional studies, suggests the Devourers are refugees from a dying universe. They're not destroying galaxies for pleasure. They're trying to gather enough energy to break through to a new universe where they can survive. Han felt a chill run through him. If that's true, then fighting them might not be the answer. Exactly, Jin said with growing excitement. What if instead of fighting them, we help them? The idea was so radical that it took several seconds for anyone to respond. Finally, Yoon spoke up. Help them? They want to consume our entire galaxy. Because they think it's the only way to get the energy they need, Jin explained. But what if we could show them another way? What if we could help them reach their new universe without destroying ours? Admiral Hyun nodded approvingly. Jin proposed this theory to our quantum physicists. They believe it might be possible to create a dimensional gateway large enough for the Devourers to pass through. It would require the combined resources of our entire fleet and perfect cooperation between all our technologies. But it's never been attempted on this scale, Hai pointed out. The energy requirements would be enormous, which is why we need every ship, every power core, every innovation we can create, Han said, understanding dawning on his face. We're not building a war fleet. We're building the largest machine in galactic history. A machine designed to save 2 civilizations, Jin added quietly. Over the following months, the nature of their preparations changed completely. Instead of weapons designed to destroy, they built generators designed to create. Instead of armor to protect against attack, they developed shields to contain dimensional energy. Instead of strategies for war, they planned the most complex engineering project ever attempted. The work required unprecedented cooperation. Zenthari mathematicians worked with human quantum physicists to calculate dimensional frequencies. Drakini engineers partnered with Makani builders to construct energy conduits that could handle forces beyond imagination. Aquari biotechnicians collaborated with alien scientists to create living systems that could adapt to dimensional stress. As the Devourer scouts approached, the fleet was ready, not for battle, but for the greatest attempt at interspecies communication in galactic history. The first contact came when a single Devourer entity entered the outer rim. It was smaller than the main swarm, but still larger than most space stations. The combined fleet moved to intercept, but instead of attacking, they activated their communication array. The message they sent was simple but universal, mathematical concepts that any intelligent species would understand, followed by images showing the dimensional gateway they had built. The message ended with a single word in every language they knew. Help. For 3 days, nothing happened. The Devourer entity continued its approach, seemingly ignoring their signals. Many beings began to fear that their peaceful solution had failed. Then, on the 4th day, the entity stopped. It hung motionless in space for several hours while the combined fleet waited nervously. Finally, it began to pulse with energy patterns that matched the mathematical sequences they had sent. It's responding, Jin whispered from his position on Unity's dawn. It understands. The communication that followed took weeks to establish fully. The Devourers did not speak in words or images, but in modifications to space-time itself. Gradually, with the help of human dimensional technology and Zenthari pattern recognition, they began to understand each other. The story the Devourers told was both tragic and hopeful. They were indeed refugees from a universe that was dying of entropy. They had been traveling for eons, consuming galaxies not from hunger but from desperate need for the energy required to escape their dying reality. They had destroyed countless civilizations, not from malice but from ignorance. They had never encountered intelligent life that could communicate with them. They want to stop, Han reported to the assembled fleet commanders. They're tired of destroying. They just want to find a new home where they can exist without harming others. The final phase of the project required every ship in the fleet to link their power systems together. Human vessels provided the quantum manipulation technology. Dracony ships contributed raw power generation. Xanthari cruisers supplied harmonic stabilization. And ships from every other species added their own unique capabilities. When the dimensional gateway finally activated, it tore a hole in space-time itself. The opening was beautiful and terrifying, a swirling vortex of colors that had no names, leading to a universe where the laws of physics were different enough to sustain the Devourers without requiring them to consume matter. One by one, the Devourer entities began to pass through the gateway. Each passage sent waves of energy through the fleet, but the combined shields held. As the last entity disappeared into the new universe, it sent one final message, a pattern of gratitude that needed no translation. The gateway collapsed, sealing the passage between universes. For the first time in millions of years, the Devourers were safe in a universe where they belonged. In the aftermath, as the fleet began to disperse back to their home systems, the impact of what they had achieved began to sink in. They had not only saved their galaxy from destruction, they had saved an ancient species from eternal exile. What happens now? Yoon asked as Unity's Dawn prepared to return to Nexus Prime. Han looked out at the mixed fleet around them, ships from 12 different species that had learned to work as one. Now we go home. But we're not the same species we were before. We've proven that working together we can accomplish anything. Jin, still amazed by everything they had witnessed, added quietly, "The myths were right. Humans did return when the galaxy faced its darkest hour. But they didn't come as conquerors or saviors. They came as partners, as the ships